Hamas accused Israel sabotaging truce talks. And UN sounds red alert as 2023 breaks heat records. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Badani. I'm Brendan Lepol and you're watching World Today. Hamas's Qatar-based chief Ismail Haniyeh has accused Israel of sabotaging truce talks after its raid on Gaza's largest hospital, which Israel said targeted senior fighters. Israel's military said dozens of Palestinians were killed and hundreds detained during a raid on Gaza City's Al-Shifa, a complex crowded with patients and displaced people.
Haniyeh said the actions of the Zionist occupation forces at Al-Shifa Medical Complex confirmed their intent to obstruct the recovery of life in Gaza and dismantle essential aspects of human existence. This also reveals the occupation leaders' endeavor to sabotage ongoing negotiations in Doha. Negotiations for a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release were underway in Doha and Qatar, said a counter-proposal could soon be presented to Hamas.
So we are at a point now where we are expecting that a counter-proposal would be presented to Hamas, but this is not the final step in the process, obviously, until we reach a place where both sides can agree on language of an agreement. These, steps back and forth will continue.
Mossad head David Barnea had flown in for talks with the Qatari Prime Minister and Egyptian officials on Monday, the first since mediators failed to secure a truce before the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, which began last week.
Armed and masked men from an array of clans and factions have started providing security for aid convoys in Gaza as Hamas tries to keep its clout in the enclave. With Zionist forces sworn to eliminating Hamas, it has become highly risky for anyone linked to the Islamist group to emerge into the open to provide security for aid deliveries to desperate civilians.
So numerous clans, civil society groups and factions have stepped in to help provide security for the aid convoys, according to the Palestinian officials and Hamas sources. Video footage obtained by Reuters showed a convoy of trucks entering Gaza City with foreign aid overnight, watched by several men armed with AK-47 assault rifles and others wielding sticks. They did not identify the clans and factions but said Hamas's ability to rally such groups behind it over security showed it retains influence, and that efforts by Israel to build its own administrative system to keep order in Gaza were being resisted. An Israeli military spokesperson declined comment, saying specific rules of engagement in an active war zone could not be publicly discussed.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a successful test of a solid fuel engine for a new type intermediate-range hypersonic missile. According to state media Korean Central News Agency KCNA, the test was carried out on Tuesday by the North Missile Administration at the Sohae satellite launching ground in the northwest of the country.
The North Korean leader said the military strategic value of the weapon system is appreciated as important as intermediate-range ballistic missiles. Pyongyang said late last year that it had conducted a series of ground tests for a new type of solid fuel engine for its ICBM. Pyongyang's latest announcement came a day after North Korea said Kim oversaw drills involving newly equipped super-large multiple rocket launchers, with emphasis on perfect preparedness to collapse the capital of the enemy. The North claimed last year it had successfully tested its first solid fuel ICBM, the largest, longest range category of ballistic missile, hailing it as a key breakthrough for the country's nuclear counterattack capabilities. Experts say solid fuel missiles typically have a higher level of operational ease and safety compared to liquid fuel weapons. Solid fuel missiles don't need to be fueled before launch, making them harder to find and destroy, as well as quicker to use.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi began a whirlwind visit to Australia, his rare trip marking a thaw in relations between the two trading partners. Wang touched down in the capital Canberra for high-level talks with counterpart Penny Wong, returning to Australia for the first time since 2017.
China and Australia have been working to patch up their trading relationship after years of bickering and tit-for-tat reprisals. But tensions remain when it comes to security, as Australia draws closer to the United States in an effort to blunt China's reach in the Asia-Pacific region.
As you know, dialogue enables us to manage our differences. We both know it does not eliminate them. Australia will always be Australia and China will always be China. Now more than ever, it is important that we have channels to discuss upholding a regional and global order, shaped by agreed rules and norms where we respect each other's sovereignty.
我们每见一次，双方的互信就增加一分，中澳关系就前进一步。这就是加强战略沟通的价值所在，也就是不断增信事宜的一个积极的议程。我们希望这一良性互动的势头能够继续的保持下去。2022年11月。
Australia and China, its largest trading partner, are rebuilding ties after a period of strained relations which hit a low in 2020 after Canberra called for an independent investigation into the origin of COVID-19. Beijing responded by imposing tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Australian commodity imports, most of which have been lifted since the change of government in Canberra 2 years ago.
The U.S. Supreme Court lifted its holds on a controversial Texas law that would allow state police to arrest and deport migrants who cross illegally into the United States from Mexico. Now, the move by the conservative majority court allows the law known as Senate Bill 4 or SB 4 to take effect while legal challenges play out in lower courts.
The administration of Democratic President Joe Biden has strongly opposed the bill, arguing that the federal government has authority over immigration matters, not individual states. The White House swiftly denounced the High Court's move, saying SB 4 is just another example of Republican officials politicizing the border while blocking real solutions. A federal judge last month temporarily blocked the law passed by the Republican majority in the Texas state legislature, saying it conflicts with key provisions of federal immigration law. But a conservative-dominated appeals court said SB 4 could go into force unless the Supreme Court ruled otherwise. Texas has tried to deter people who cross illegally under its Operation Lone Star, using measures including deploying National Guard troops to the border, blocking migrants with concertina wire, and installing a floating barrier throughout the Rio Grande.
Every major global climate record was broken last year, and 2024 could be worse. The World Meteorological Organization, WMO, said on Tuesday, with its chief voicing particular concern about ocean heat and shrinking sea ice.
WMO, in its annual State of the Global Climate Report, stated that average temperatures hit in the highest level in 174 years of record keeping by a clear margin, reaching 1.45 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Ocean temperatures also reached the warmest in 65 years of data, with over 90% of the seas having experienced heatwave conditions during the year, harming food systems. WMO Secretary General Celeste Saulo said she was sounding the red alert about the state of the climate.
The time scale of the oceans is, of course, not as fast as the atmosphere. The response is not as fast. So once a change is established, I would say that it's almost irreversible in time scales that go from centennial to millennial time scales. So the trend is really very worrying. And so that's why we are paying more and more attention to what is happening to the oceans.
There is a high probability that 2024 will set new heat records, with the year after an El Nino was typically warmer still. Tuesday's report also showed a big plunge in Antarctic sea ice, with the peak level measured at 1 million square kilometre below the previous record, an area roughly equivalent to the size of Egypt. That trend has contributed to a more than doubling of the rate of sea level rise over the past decade compared with the 1993 to 2002 period.
Still to come, another 100 people abducted in 2 new attacks in Nigeria. Stay tuned. Welcome back. South African investigators raided the home of National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Ngakula on Tuesday as part of a corruption inquiry against her. The operation by the National Prosecution Authority (NPA) investigating directorate was linked to a probe into alleged corruption during the Speaker's time as Defence Minister.
South Africa's state-owned broadcaster SABC reported that Mapisa-Ngakula, who lives in Johannesburg, is suspected of receiving millions of rands in cash as bribes from a former military contractor when she was defence minister. Neither the parliament nor the NPA provided further details on the investigation or the corruption allegations. It was not clear if any charges would be brought against her. A veteran of the governing African National Congress (ANC), Mapisa-Ngakula was South Africa's defence minister from 2012 to 2021. Coming just over 2 months before national elections, the raid adds to the woes of ANC, which is struggling in the polls amid accusations of graft and mismanagement. In power since the advent of democracy in 1994, the party is expected to see its share of the vote drop below 50%. For the first time,
kidnappers have abducted over 100 people in 2 new attacks in northwest Nigeria, weeks after more than 250 school pupils were seized in the same state. Residents and officials blame gangs on criminals known locally as bandits for the abduction in the Kajuru area of Kaduna State, which filed pressure on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu after a spate of large-scale abductions.
Bandits routinely target communities, loot villages and carry out mass kidnappings for ransom in northwest and north-central Nigeria, where the violence, according to the United Nations, has displaced around 1 million people. Over the weekend, gunmen kidnapped 87 people in Kajuru Station. Resident Hari Sudari said bandits stormed the village at around 10 p.m. and went door-to-door abducting residents. Around 10 kilometers away, 16 more people in Dogon Noma were kidnapped. Kidnapped victims in Nigeria are often freed following negotiations with the authorities, though a 2022 law banned handing money to kidnappers, and officials deny ransom payments are made.
French civil servants took to the streets during a nationwide strike movement to demand better pay and protest government reforms. Teachers, healthcare workers and public administration workers marched by the thousands in Paris streets.
The more than 5.7 million of French civil servants were called to demonstrate by a coalition of all the major unions of the sector. At the Paris March, a majority of education workers were present, in part to protest a government reform introducing level groups from the 6th grade onwards that would divide students of the same class along their level of performance. Another major demand across the sector are pay rises. As demonstrators say, salary hikes do not match the rise of inflation. According to the French Statistics Institute, salaries of private sector workers have risen twice as fast as those of public sector workers between 2011 and 2021. In Bolivia, authorities seized over 7 tons of cocaine hidden in scrap metal structures in a region near the border with Chile. The Special Force of Fight Against Drug Trafficking found 7.280 tons of cocaine in 2 of 3 size containers, which were bound for Belgium. Authorities found the drugs after checking 2 containers in 2 trucks at the Pisiga Customs in Oruro. On their way to the Oruro National Customs, they found a 3rd truck from the same company moving another container. 3 suspects were detained with charges of drug trafficking and criminal association. Over in Chile, police are investigating an arson attack in the commune of Freire in Chile's restive Araucanía. According to Chilean Police Colonel Cristian Vera, a group of hooded individuals perpetrated the attack and 8 units of forestry machinery and trucks were burned down. During the investigation, a protest banner demanding the release of Mapuche prisoners and the departure of the forestry companies from the area. The Araucanía region has been under a state of emergency since May 2022, following simmering conflict between the indigenous Mapuche and the Chilean government. Flash floods caused by heavy rain swept through Iraq city of Duhok. Floodwaters raged through the city, leaving homes and businesses inundated with mud and debris. Resident Dafan Lashkari said he and his family had to shelter on the second floor when a wave of water hit his home. According to local media, 2 people were killed by the flash floods. Duhok Governor Ali Tata urged civilians not to leave their houses unless necessary.
In sports, Russians and Belarusians barred from participating in upcoming Olympic parade. Stay with us. Kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, the Harimau Malaya squad may look less prepared than Oman ahead of their crucial Group D match in the second round of the 2026 World Cup 2027 Asian Cup qualifiers in Muscat this Friday. Now, this lack of readiness is mainly due to the players' fitness levels, as they have not played in any competitive matches, including at the club level, since the 2023 Asian Cup in Qatar last January.
Despite the challenges, left-back Daniel Ting highlighted the resilient spirit of the players, suggesting it could be a determining factor in their upcoming match. He is positive that his teammates will draw inspiration from their resilient performance when they drew 3-3 with South Korea in the 2023 Asian Cup group match. The draw against South Korea can be considered a historic result for the Harimau Malaya squad in the modern era of football, after the two teams were separated by a large ranking gap, with Malaysia then ranked 130th, while the opposing team was ranked 23rd in the world.
The organisers of the 2030 World Cup unveiled the logo for the tournament at an event in Oeiras, Portugal. FIFA announced last October that Morocco, Spain and Portugal would co-host the 2030 World Cup, with Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay hosting the first 3 matches to mark the tournament's centenary.
3 países, 2 continentes, uma única ambição: organizar um Mundial que fique na memória de todos. Um Mundial que a história recorde, não apenas por ser o melhor de sempre, mas por ser aquele que definiu novos padrões para o futuro da competição.
Infused with Arabic and Spanish elements, the official slogan of the 2030 World Cup captures the spirit of unity and anticipation for the world's greatest tournament. The slogan, Yala, Vamos, 2030, meaning let's go in Arabic and Spanish, encapsulates the essence of unity and excitement for the upcoming event. The global most prestigious football tournament will be held across 2 continents for the first time ever.
Former refereeing chief Jose Maria Enriquez Negreira chose not to testify during a court appearance Tuesday regarding the alleged Barcelona bribery scandal. Court sources said the 78-year-old exercised his right not to testify during a brief appearance in the Barcelona investigation court after being summoned by investigating judge Joaquin Aguirre.
Negreira's court appearance was originally scheduled for February, but twice delayed in the petition of his defense, saying he was unfit to testify because of a dementia claim. Last year, Barcelona and several of the Spanish champions' former directors, including re-elected current president Juan Laporta, were charged with bribery for alleged payments to Negreira. Negreira held the post of Spanish refereeing vice president for 25 years. He allegedly earned over 7 million euros from Barcelona between 2001 and 2018 through companies supposedly producing refereeing reports. In the statement, Barcelona said it had paid an external consultant who supplied it with technical reports related to professional refereeing, which it said was a common practice among professional football clubs. Spanish prosecutors are attempting to find out if Barcelona's payments were in an attempt to influence refereeing.
And moving on to tennis, Paula Badosa spoiled Simona Halep's return from a doping ban, fighting back to claim a gritty 1-6, 6-4, 6-3 win on Tuesday to move into the second round of the Miami Open and set up what is sure to be an emotion-packed match with Aryna Sabalenka. Halep had been the player in the spotlight coming into Miami after accepting a wild card when her 4-year suspension was cut to 9 months by the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Heads is the call.
Playing her first match since the first round loss at the 2022 US Open, Halep displayed few signs of rust against the 80th ranked Spaniard in the opening set. The 32-year-old Romanian spark plug showed she can still make all the shots and had lost none of her trademark terrier, like determination running down ball after ball. But 18 months away from competition was always going to exact a toll. In the second set, it was Badosa taking the initiative as Halep began to show the first signs of fatigue, while the Spaniard held steady to level the match. A third set turned into a dogfight with Badosa again, getting the early break to go ahead 2-1, only to have a battling Halep immediately break back. However, Badosa would continue to apply pressure and break the Wimbledon and French Open winner a second time, the effort leaving the exhausted. With little in reserve, Halep's resistance melted and Badosa moved in for the kill, finishing off her opponent with another break.
Dominant two-time Tour de France winner Tadej Pogačar earned his second win of the season on Tuesday by comfortably taking the second stage of the Tour of Catalonia. UAE Team Emirates rider Pogačar, who said he messed up at the end of Monday's first stage, ensured that it will not repeat on day 2 and became the new race leader.
The Slovenian was favoured to triumph in the mountains and after attacking with 6.5 kilometers remaining could not be caught in a rainy finish. Pogačar completed with 186.5 kilometer trail from Mataro to Valter, nearly a minute and a half ahead of his closest contenders Mikel Landa and Alexander Vlasov, taking control of the general classification. The 25-year-old made the 11-kilometer climb to finish with an average gradient of nearly 8%. Looked easy and only 7 riders finished within 2 minutes of him. He leads the race by 1 minute and 35 seconds from Soudal Quickstep's Spanish rider Landa. Wednesday's stage 3 offers another chance for Pogačar, aiming for an ambitious Giro Tour double in 2024 to shine. It is another mountainous stage stretching 176.7 km from San Juan de las Abadesses to Portaina, with an 18-kilometer climb to the finish.
Russians and Belarusians will not take part in the parade of athletes at the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympics in July. The athletes from these countries who qualify for the Games will be competing as independents without their flags and anthems following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022.
The opening ceremony in Paris will not be held in a stadium but will be staged on the River Seine, with teams floating past an estimated 300,000 spectators. The Russians and Belarusians who will be competing as individual neutral athletes under a specially created flag and with an anthem without lyrics produced by the IOC will not be part of the parade but would be experiencing all other parts of the opening ceremony apart from the team parade. The IOC said those athletes who do qualify will then be vetted by a 3-member IOC panel in order to meet the eligibility criteria that the Olympic body established for Russians and Belarusians. The panel is headed by IOC Vice President Nicole Huhertz and includes ex-NBA basketball champion Pau Gasol and South Korean former Olympic table tennis champion Ryu Seung-min. Early on Tuesday, the IOC criticized Russia's plans to host their own friendship games later in 2024, saying it was politicizing sport and violating the Olympic Charter.
In motorsport, Spanish teenager Fermin Aldeguer will move up to MotoGP with Ducati in 2025 on a 2-year deal with an option for 2 more years. The 18-year-old is currently competing in Moto2 and won the final 4 races of last season, finishing 3rd overall.
He is widely expected to join the Pramac satellite team. Ducati course general manager Luigi Dall'Igna said in a statement that Aldeguer was one of the strongest riders in the new generation of MotoGP. He added that Aldeguer is a young guy with huge potential and Ducati will give him all the technical support to help him grow. The rider said he was realizing a childhood dream and it is the time to take the big leap and compete with the world's finest riders.
Hai, saya Syah.
Saya Hanura.
Kami akan kongsikan cara mendaftar padu. Jom ikuti langkah ini.
Langkah pertama, isi maklumat asas seperti nama penuh, nombor kad pengenalan, poskod, nombor telefon dan email. Langkah kedua, masukkan kod one time password OTP yang telah diterima melalui SMS atau email yang telah didaftarkan. Langkah ketiga, di bahagian ini anda perlu tetapkan kata laluan mengikut kriteria yang telah ditetapkan.
Jangan lupa anda perlu membuat pengesahan identiti. Langkah pertama, ambil gambar MyCard bahagian hadapan. Langkah kedua, ambil gambar MyCard bahagian belakang. Langkah ketiga, ambil gambar swafoto atau selfie pemilik MyCard. Sila tunggu sekejap dan sekiranya keluar paparan ini, pengesahan identiti anda telah berjaya.
Jangan lupa ya, kita kena kemas kini, okey? Di bahagian ini, anda perlu kemas kini maklumat asas, alamat kediaman, maklumat pendidikan, maklumat isi rumah, pekerjaan, pendapatan, komitmen dan bantuan. Sebelum membuat perakuan, pastikan butiran yang diperlukan diisi dengan lengkap.
Tahniah, anda telah berjaya mendaftar akaun padu.
Awak tu dah daftar ke belum?
Nak pergi daftar lah ni.
And that's it from us. Here's a recap of a top story. Hamas accused Israel of sabotaging truce talks after raids on Gaza's largest hospital. Do join us tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM, or you can stream us online on RTM Clip website and also via mobile app. Till then, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Brenda Lepol. Goodbye for now. Take care.